Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to In the Company of Scholars, where we meet some of our favorite scholars and speakers. Your favorite scholars and speakers that you often see in the Peace TV channel. Today, I have some distinguished guests with me. I have to my right side Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad, who is a professor of instructional technology, and Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad is a former professor in Johns Hopkins University. I also have with me my dear brother, Sheikh Saeed Raji, who is the Imam of Abu Huraira Mosque in Toronto, Canada. And last but not least, we have with us also Dr. Jimmy Jones, who is a professor of comparative religion in Manhattanville College. I would like to welcome all of you, inshallah. One of the topics that the du'at or the callers for Islam are always thinking about is how to make their da'wah more effective in the West especially, and to the human beings in general in this entire planet. And I think that one of the issues that will help us, inshallah ta'ala, achieve this is to have discussions regarding this issue. And I'm really happy to have all of you here. And I think if we could talk about some of the keys that will make the da'wah more effective, I think that will be helpful for us as maybe speakers or callers to Islam, and as well as our dear viewers in the Peace TV channel. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start with Dr. Jimmy Jones, who is the professor of comparative religions in Manhattanville College. Dr. Jones, from your experience as a professor in the university, I would like you to tell us a little bit about how could you make your da'wah more effective from an academic point of view.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
I think since I work in a university setting, I'd like to talk about the younger people in particular, because a major problem that we've had in the West, in the United States, is young people, once they come, not staying, or they're coming, and then Islam not being what they thought it was in the first place. And I think it's particularly important for those of us who are bringing people into Islam or calling them to understand that our situation and their situation is not exactly the same. I mean, we often think that nothing has happened since the 20 or 30 years since we were young. The reality is a lot has happened during that time period, and we should take these things into account. When I think about doing this thing and talking to young people about Islam, I think about three things quickly. One, my niyyah. What is my intention? I have to get this straight in the beginning, because there's so many things, there's so much miscommunication between the generations that I have to be doing something pleasing to Allah, inshallah. The second thing is to be careful about the tone of my interaction, because, you know, sometimes younger people are not as respectful as we want them to be, and so therefore we can be very harsh with them. And what helps me is understanding that whatever I say to them, you know, I have to take it to my Lord on Yom Kiyyamah, inshallah. It's a matter of perspective. The final thing is my attitude toward the kinds of activities that we might have to call them in the first place. That I have to be more expansive in my thinking, because again, I took Shahada in 1979, and things were very different for me. And I came into Islam through the door of black nationalism, and that is not a model that most youngsters even know about today. This is history for them. And so therefore, I have to, you know, engage them on their own terms, inshallah.
If you don't mind, I'm going to move to Sheikh Saeed Raji. And Sheikh Saeed, we know that you are an imam of a masjid in Canada, in Toronto, Canada. And I know that you interact very much with the youth. Perhaps Dr. Jones interact with young people who go to the university and so forth in the university setting. But I'm sure through your talks and your lectures and so forth, you also interact with them. So how do you find da'wah to them, and how do you assess it, and what are some of the key elements for the success?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Now, what we need to understand as a community as a whole, and especially as imams and those people who are handling young people, is all traditional way of giving da'wah to youth is no longer effective in the West. You're dealing with young people who have a lot of ideas, who like to entertain themselves. Therefore, if you say, let us sit and learn Quran or read Riyadh al-Salihin or Sahih al-Bukhari, initially that may not work with them. They may need something new. What we do in Canada usually is we create activities for them, sports activity for them. That it brings larger number of young people. And we don't force them to pray. We don't force them to dress Islamically initially, because we have leagues to run, we have basketball, we have soccer, we have hockey, we have other activities. What we do is, we as members, we as volunteers, we stop all the activity for Salah, for example, and we say we want to pray. If you don't want to pray, that's your choice. If you want to pray, please join us. By the second or third week, everyone will join us in Salah. And then from there, we move to just a small reminder. You know, why we're here, as Dr. Jamie Jones Jazakallah Khair mentioned, the intention of you being here. And they say, we're here to play ball, we want to enjoy ourselves. I said, well, alhamdulillah, that's good, but you know what? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. You can enjoy yourself, you can have fun, but at the same time, you can be rewarded. Because you want to be fit, you want to be Muslim, you want to be strong. Now have that and have this, so you can have them both. That brings a large number of people to the masjid, and they come, and alhamdulillah, you see them later on being in the Salat al-Jama'ah, Salat al-Jum'ah, halaqat, conferences, and the next thing that you know, he wants to be a member of the masjid, he wants to volunteer, he wants to do this, we have the exact same thing for the sisters too. They have a swimming thing. So I think those social activities is more effective than let us have a halaqah and let's call everybody to the masjid, listen, lecture. So that's one of the ways that we do, and I think it's been very effective amongst the youth in Canada.
As a professor of instructional technology, I think what Dr. Jones and what Brother Saeed Rajah specifically mentioned appeals to you, I'm sure, because anyone who opens one of your books, let it be Hajj A to Z or Arabic language, a bridge to Islamic culture. See, I'm making some kind of advertisement for your books here, so you have to give me credit for that. Okay. Anyone who opens one of your books would clearly see that you are using a different approach. It's not the traditional, let's say, approach. And I think this is one of the key elements for the success, inshallah ta'ala, of delivering the message. So maybe you could tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it's a new way for da'wah, or at least for helping Islam to spread in a nice way. And the way you design books, or the way you speak to people, or the way you interact with them, if it is very well organized and you are trained to do that, it will have impact, especially at schools and among the Muslims. So it saves them a lot of time, and instead of reading other books, if they focus on these books that are very well designed, they will help save a lot of times and a lot of trials and errors. For example, the book of Hajj, I made it from a perspective of a blind person who is performing Hajj. It focuses on how to do it rather than the content. It does have a content. However, it saves a lot of people, a lot of trials and a lot of mistakes. So when they are exposed to it, when they use it properly, I think the majority of them, if not all of them, inshallah, will get their Hajj performed correctly. Right. And this is a goal in itself. I still remember when I made Hajj for the first time. It was 1978.
Wow.
And it was
much younger than that.
Indeed, I am. It was very problematic for me to understand some of the concepts, the tamattu and the qiran and the ifrad and all these terminology. And I didn't have the opportunity to see simplified books that would, do this. And I still, alhamdulillah, get messages from people in different areas, in different places in the world, that would say that your book is good, but if you do this, that would be better. That's why I all the time document all the comments from people, because very educated people read it, and even the non-educated people read it. So they would give you things that no human being would be able to collect or to think of all these ideas by himself. Collaborating with Muslims all over the world and getting an input from here, getting an idea from here, it will add up, and every edition, every new version of the book, it adds the opinion of other people. This way, I think many people in the Islamic world, they would benefit from a product like that. I encourage, and a lot of scholars to direct themselves to how to put their material, how to put their knowledge in a way that we call it instructional, that people would, there is a difference between pure knowledge and you need to put it in a way to simplify it, whether by classification, by comparison, or by putting some illustrations in it. It makes a big difference. And I wish this is an area, I think this is an area that's open for all the scholars. And here I advise the Muslim scholars, including the teachers, including, to work together. It's not necessary that Sheikh Yusuf would have all the expertise, or Dr. Jimmy Jones would have all the expertise, or Sheikh Raji. But if we put the pieces together, we would produce something really magnificent and effective. And you can see this in Peace TV. You can see this in the conference that we are in now. Dr. Zakir Naik and his huge staff that works with him, they added to each other, and alhamdulillah, they produced something that I think every Muslim and even every Indian would be proud of the quality of the work.
Definitely. We are very interested, I'm sure the viewers are very interested in what you are saying. We're going to be back, inshallah, with Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad, Sheikh Saeed Rajih, and Dr. Jimmy Jones. But after we take a little break, I hope you have some time to stay with us, inshallah, and we'll be back soon, inshallah. So until that time, I leave you with the peace and the blessings of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Invite all to the way of thy Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious.
Allah has not asked us to make people Muslim.
Invite, offer, share.
Allah has asked us to invite people to Islam.
Be a part of the special mission for humankind.
Dawah is really an art. We need to refocus on the importance of dawah. And this is about time the ummah woke up.
In this unique workshop with Abdur Rahim Green.
We can't force anyone to be Muslim. What if we, as an ummah, could once again take up the duty and obligation of da'wah?
Learn how to aptly deliver Allah's message of Islam to people around the world in Dawah. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 6:30 a.m. India on Peace TV. Strategy for fitness, necessity for strength, approach for liveliness, concern for potency.
I'm your host, Ismail Chartier.
We live in a stressful society now. Therefore, we need to learn how to manage the stress in order for us to live a healthy life.
How diabetes develops, stress and overeating. Welcome to Health in Islam.
Examine the deep-rooted processes to ensure best physical condition in health. Next on Peace TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome back to In the Company of Scholars, where you meet some of your favorite scholars and speakers. And I'm very honored to have with me today Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad, Professor of Instructional Technology, former professor in Johns Hopkins University, Sheikh Saeed Raji from Canada. He's the Imam of Abu Huraira Mosque in Toronto, Canada. And Dr. Jimmy Jones, who's also a professor of comparative religion in Manhattanville College. So welcome to all of you. We really enjoyed, I personally enjoyed our discussion before the break that we took, and I hope that all the viewers also enjoyed the discussion that we had. So we're going to go back to you again, Dr. Jimmy Jones, and I would like to ask you specifically about how do you feel that teaching a class in comparative religion might help you clear some of the misconceptions that might come up about Islam?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is a good place to teach about misconceptions simply because most American young people illiterate when it comes to their own religion. And this, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And so this is a difficulty. But on the other hand, it's sort of a fertile field, in other words, for teaching people about religion in general and Islam in particular.
But in that area, In my experience with the university and the people who teach the university, especially those people who teach Islamic studies or teach about Islam, they always present Islam in a negative light, always mentioning something negative about Islam. There was only one person that I got to know, and he was a Sudani professor, Sheikh Abdul Rahman in Montreal. And he taught only for one term, and 25 people accepted Islam. So the university dismissed him, and they said, we didn't hire you to give da'wah, we're here to teach about Islam. Do you have any problems with the administration of the university concerning you presenting Islam under that light?
No, I've never had any problems. I've been at this university since 1990. It's basically because I think my role as a Muslim and an academic is to tell the truth as I know it. You don't get a problem this way. And, it depends on what you mean by da'wah. I think one of the major ways that we give da'wah is by our conduct, how we carry ourselves and how we deal with it.
This is exactly what I was trying to say, that you teach Islam and you compare it with other religions fairly. However, there's another factor that works here, that when you represent Islam and when the people see in you that you are a role model, you are emulating the behavior of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You are dedicated in your profession. You are sincere in it. You try to help all your students. They see a model in front of them that they don't see in other professors. And this in itself affects people and attracts them to listen to you and emulate you and learn something about Islam. And this is something I think one of the most effective factors in da'wah nowadays, not just in the West, everywhere in the world, when they see the good model that represents the behavior of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The ability to maybe answer people's questions with confidence and so forth, the ability
professionally.
Exactly.
Yep.
To know about, for example, other religions, other methodologies, and so on and so forth, and to represent it in a fair manner and so forth. I think that this will help.
When the students see that you are unbiased, you are fair as the Prophet ﷺ, or as Muslims should be, right? They are affected by that, and they can see the difference between your approach and other people's approach, and at that time they are definitely affected by your model.
If there's no problem if the people let you tell them what the true Islam is.
Okay.
But, and again, I'm talking about my personal experience because I was the chaplain of the University of Calgary for 7 years almost. And every term, the students will come and complain about this teacher was teaching about Islam, but he's teaching something wrong about Islam. And he would call the students, oh, what do you have in your bag? Are you one of those terrorists? So they will present.
It's kind of intimidating.
Exactly. But one thing that they all these years, one thing that they have in common is they would not allow the professors to teach the true Islam. They have to teach corrupted Islam. And when the person receives information that is corrupted about Islam, most likely will not want to be a Muslim. But here, what I see, they allow you to teach or answer about certain questions pertains to Islam in a fair way without you presenting Islam as your faith and you're propagating it. But this is not available in Canada as far as I know.
Right. The thing is that I don't think it makes sense that you find, for example, someone from another religion trying to really teach you what your religion is. If you have people from your religion who understand the religion very well, probably they're going to be more fair. But I want to go back to the issue of, these keys for the success of the da'wah. And I would want to talk about the approach, and I'm going to go back again to you, if you don't mind, Dr. Mamdouh.
In terms of presenting it differently, I think each one of us, each human being is unique in something. So when you find presentation of Sheikh Raji or the presentation of Dr. Jamie Jones or anyone, or Dr. Zakir Naik, each one has some uniqueness. And I think it depends on the sincerity of a person from one aspect and how well prepared he is. I think these are factors that are very important. When you prepare a lecture and when you cover many references and when you contact many scholars or many sources in order to get the required data, the information that you give in itself, because it's unique when people, for example, are exposed to Islam and they know some facts about Islam that they did not know before. Previously, for example, I would say that a couple of days ago, I was in Riyadh making a lecture about the effect of Arabic language anyway. So I mentioned I made a comparison between the efforts of the companions in spreading Arabic language and the efforts that had been done by many Islamic universities and Arabic-speaking universities. You see that the effect of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, without a lot of the research that people are talking about, it was so effective. In just 50 years, they changed the face of Egypt from speaking a different language into speaking Arabic language. It sounded to them that it is for the first time that they have ever heard that. Whereas nowadays, with all these universities and with all these researchers, the effect of Arabic is not as good as it was at the time of the companion. So from this fact itself, that it attracted the people to what really was behind this, what made those companions, who were not, all of them were not educated, to spread a language on this large scale.
Don't you think, Dr. Mamdouh, maybe one of the reasons is that the Arabic language at that time was the language of the religion that is dominating. It's a language of science and so forth, and it was actually kind of prestigious, maybe later on, to be able to speak the Arabic language, just like it's prestigious for many of the people, for example, from the Arab world or other places, to maybe put some English words here and there while they're talking their own language.
I would say that in the early years, it was not that language of science, and but if you compare it now, I also said that when we are trying to teach Arabic nowadays, and this is one of my jobs that I do now, in fact, most of the teachers of Arabic, while they are teaching Arabic, they learn English more than they teach Arabic. And this was not the case at the time of the companions, when they spread their language without even very limited knowledge about the target language of the country that they had been living in. Going back to the question that you raised, preparing for your lecture is something very important. And as I said, that benefiting from other people's opinion would be something in itself, is a factor that would make your word effective on the ears and the hearts of other people.
Right. So you like to concentrate on the issue of preparation?
Preparation and
sincerity from other
getting
people
feedback
to help you.
In addition to the issue of sincerity, you are doing this for the sake of Allah. You want to show people the truth, and without expecting anything from the people, you just expect to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sheikh Saeed, when it comes to young people and your role as maybe a chaplain and imam of a mosque and so on and so forth, how receptive are people to the da'wah that you're trying to do?
Anyone who comes to you for questions, for advice, or for any other, he is here because, or she is here because they want Islam. So pushing them away, or as Dr. Jamie Jones stated earlier, or using harsh language, of course, is not something that we will even discuss or go there. But when you meet these individuals who are thirsty and hunger for ilm, for knowledge, I think the easiest way, the way we do it at least, is to present Islam one step at a time. And if the young lady comes and she's wearing tight jeans, has no hijab and full makeup, you know, we don't go and say, well, sister, you're doing haram. Fear Allah, you're going to go to... No, but we say, how is your salah? You know, so we start with something and we try to encourage for her to do righteous deeds that would increase her iman, her faith. Because I know everyone knows dating is haram, drinking is haram, interest is haram, but we're still doing that. So the problem is not knowing, the problem is the level of iman is not up to the level that we need. So if we bring them closer to us and make them trust, and that's what we do, we allow them to see as a simple human being, not like this take on, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to just send you one-way ticket to Jahannam. They say, subhanAllah, it's easy to talk to you. And it's very easy to understand what you're saying, and you can relate to us, you know. And then next thing that you know, out of respect, she will come. Even though you never talk to her about hijab, leave something over her head. And then the third time she comes, or the fourth time you see them, mashallah, every day they're adding something. To the point that you see her with hijab, full hijab, sister, mashallah, she said, Jazakallah khair, put hijab on. Or Jazakallah khair, I learned about Islam in the case of the brothers, and so on. So I think making them feel comfortable talking about Islam, you know, and not making everything haram first is the